Do you have a role model? Yes, a role model. Someone that you look up to, whether they are presently living or even someone who has passed away, a relative or friend, acquaintance, anyone that was a role model who was instrumental in you becoming the man or woman that you are today. I would like to know. I believe all of us would like to be encouraged by your story by you leaving it in the comment section below. Now, I have many, many role models, and I do mean that literally, many role models. And I would like to share some of those role models with you. Those individuals, past and present, that were very instrumental in me being the man that I am today. And I would like to start first of all with my mother. I am the child of a single parent for the most part. And if it were not for my mother, I wouldn't be here on YouTube talking to you. Yes, my mother, I watched her go through much suffering and struggling, raising two sons. And just in general, she's my number one role model of an individual that had that, for lack of a better word, stick to it mentality. No matter what, she saw that we had food to eat, a roof over our heads, and protection. And my brother and I did indeed turn out with a very sound mind. He's no longer with us. But my mother was my first role model. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Almighty Creator, God, Yahweh. It sort of seems out of place when you call God your role model, because He's responsible for all of us being here and any and everything that exists and everything that we know that exists. But He's a role model to me. Now, why didn't I say God first? Couldn't say God first because He was not my first experience. It was my mother. That was the individual I experienced first. And then God came into my life later. So another role model of mine was my Uncle Willie Bates. He was my absolute first physical instructor in martial arts, combat jiu-jitsu. And then it was Bruce Lee. When I first saw him on screen, actually in a commercial advertising one of his films, The Big Boss or Fist of Fury, he was my role model, and to this very day he still is, and he remains my role model. Now, understand this, comprehend this, and that is, everyone that I tell you that is my role model, they're still my role model, whether they're still living or not, period, because they set the precedence, the foundation for who I am as a person today. Now, another role model of mine in finance is Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Dan Lok, Bob Proctor. All of these are white individuals and even Asian. So for those individuals that might think that I'm biased or prejudiced, and that I'm only pro-black, that's not true. Note that I mentioned an Asian and white role models. Kevin Trudeau, who was locked up for 10 years, who was the author of Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About, he was a role model of mine as well, and he still remains a role model of mine as well. Patrick Delbs, an herbalist, a naturalist, he's a role model of mine. Layla Africa, he is an herbalist and a naturalist. He's a role model of mine, and both of these men are from the islands. Dr. Sabi, role model of mine. There are many role models that I have. Who else can I think of that is a role model of mine? I've mentioned martial arts. Bruce Lee, my Uncle Willie, Ed Brown, a good friend of mine, Shuriru Karate. I can call him a role model of mine. One of the best kata and kumite competitors that I've ever seen. Has he been beaten? Of course, we all have. But he's a role model of mine as well. I have a great deal of respect for him. And not only him, but Grandmaster Woodrow Fairbanks, Wu Xing, and Shuri Rukhrate. He's a role model of mine as well. So, who's your role model today? Who is that individual or those several individuals that helped form or fashion you into the man or the woman that you are today? Now, I have spiritual role models, and I have martial arts role models, and I have business role models, and then some. But I would like to know who your role models are. This is Brother Teacher. Leave it in the comment section below, and I'll get back. So long.